Standard HR models often present a direct equation. Higher employee engagement leads to higher physical productivity. This model fits white-collar and service industries, where output depends on intellectual or creative effort. In these roles, increased motivation allows tasks to scale with the worker's mental energy. This linear assumption meets resistance in a blue-collar environment, defined by quotas and machinery. Here, production is governed by line speed, not the worker's mood. Highly engaged factory workers often reach a plateau. The rigid physical limits of manual labor shift how traditional engagement models actually function in practice. A 2026 study published in the Journal of Critical Social Sciences and Review analyzed this dynamic through a survey of 140 production workers at Greenbelt Food Products Corporation. The research focused on tangible indicators of work, the specific volume of bags, kilos, and packs processed by the staff. Researchers examined whether high psychological motivation could effectively override the mechanical and operational constraints that define the manufacturing process. This specific focus on labor-intensive work highlights a discrepancy in standard organizational behavior theory. To analyze the workforce, the study utilized William Kahn's 1990 framework, which defines engagement as a combination of three distinct human investments. Cognitive engagement involves mental focus and attention to detail. It reflects how psychologically present a worker is while performing their tasks. Physical engagement represents the exertion of energy and stamina required to meet the demands of the role. Emotional engagement is the worker's sense of belonging and their effective connection to the organization. Sustained performance relies on a balance across these dimensions, as over-reliance on a single type of investment can create long-term strain. The baseline data for the Greenbelt factory workers shows high self-reported engagement across all three categories. The workforce reports high mental focus with a cognitive score of 4.26, and they maintain a strong connection to the work with an emotional score of 4.12. Physical engagement is the highest recorded dimension at 4.29. In a quota-driven environment, these workers are consistently applying high levels of effort and stamina to their roles. This effort corresponds to a productivity score of 385.63, indicating that the staff is successfully meeting the company's operational demands. On the surface, the data describes a motivated workforce producing at a high volume. Despite these high engagement scores, the statistical relationship between the workers' motivation and their actual output reveals a paradox. The study calculated a Pearson correlation coefficient of precisely 0.17. An R-value of 0.17 represents a weak positive correlation. Statistically, it means the two variables, engagement and productivity, barely interact in this environment. Because of this flat trend line, increasing a worker's emotional or cognitive motivation has a minimal impact on the actual number of units they produce. Productivity is limited by structural factors. Machinery speeds, raw materials, and the biological limits of human stamina create a ceiling that motivation cannot break. In this setting, operational systems dictate output. Psychological engagement is not a lever for infinite growth when the workflow has a fixed maximum capacity. While the workforce remains productive, the data shows a statistical gap in how workers are investing their energy. In Kahn's framework, physical engagement is the highest-rated dimension, while emotional engagement is the lowest point in the profile. This gap indicates a developmental imbalance. If physical exertion is high, but emotional connection is statistically lower, the workforce faces a higher risk of burnout and turnover over time. The lead in physical engagement suggests an environment where task execution is prioritized over the worker's emotional connection to the organization. These findings suggest that manufacturing HR should move away from using engagement programs solely to drive more physical output. The study proposes a strategic intervention plan focused on emotional stabilization. The objective is to improve emotional well-being rather than chasing higher production numbers. The plan includes emotional wellness seminars, stress management workshops, and more consistent communication between supervisors and staff. These strategies aim to reinforce the emotional dimension, providing a psychological support system for the physical demands of the job. Investing in emotional intelligence and stress management allows the workforce to maintain their current performance levels safely. In labor-intensive industries, engagement functions as a support for human endurance. It is a tool for sustainability within the existing limits of the production system.